Have you ever thought what it would be like to do the thing in your favorite video game? Kick a field goal, traverse an ancient crypt, or become an Elden Lord? Well, that's exactly what happened with Jann Mardenborough in the Gran Turismo movie, which is based on Jann Mardenborough in real life. The man played Gran Turismo so well that he was able to qualify for Nissan's GT Academy, an in-person contest at the Silverstone circuit in Towcester, UK, where gamers from around the world would compete in real F3 race cars. Since 2016, GT Academy has been dissolved, but that doesn't mean that we can't do a mock qualifier to see if I could make it into the top 20 in the world. If Jann was able to do this with 10,000 collective hours in all of the Gran Turismo games, then I don't see why I couldn't train for a week and see if I would be able to get into the GT Academy. Yeah, that's totally reasonable. But first, let's do a review of the movie. Jann is shown from the beginning to be very obsessive with Gran Turismo, having a full racing wheel setup, visualizing the correct way to tune his car, and pushing for better times by not following the normal lines and similar patterns other racers exhibit. His buddy has a local video game cafe where Jann plays as well, and finds out that he has been invited to a qualifying race. If he wins, he goes to Silverstone for the in-person competition for GT Academy, like I said before.
There's a virtual race happening tomorrow. Win it, and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity awaits you.
Obviously, he does that, goes through GT Academy,
whose sim skills translate to driving a real car.
I wasn't prepared for just how physical the demands of the car were going to be.
and wins.
Yes, come on.
During this time, we see that Orlando Bloom's character is very much not on the side of Jann, while David Harbour's character is clearly there for the racer since he was a professional racer way back in the day. This is pretty much the first third of the movie, and I thought it was really interesting because I had never heard of GT Academy before. I kind of wish they went into more details with the other drivers, seeing as how all of them are like make-believe. None of the names in the movie, except for Jann's, is actually real, and I think his parents as well. But they could have done so many creative things with this. They could have made it where a driver is actually really good at drifting. Another one is really good at defending a position. And maybe the other person is just a rival, an overall good competitor. They definitely could have expanded a little bit more, but I understand that they just had to move the story along. So in the middle is mostly parts of good driving, mixed with mistakes that Jann does, which cost him crucial race placements.
I'm gonna nerf you, gamer.
Or just being rammed off the road. Creating a montage of this was good, and we learn of two specific drivers. The Kappa driver, which I think his name is Nick, and this German driver, Schulin. You'd think these would be the top drivers, first and second respectively. But actually, they kind of settle in the 7th to 3rd place range at all times. It feels less exciting when the main character of a movie is fighting his racing enemies in 4th place, but that's really all Jann is fighting for here. He needs his FIA license, which will give him a year contract with Nissan, so for these 5 or 6 races, all he needs to place is 4th. In one of them. He ends up achieving that in this race, but not before this happens. The middle of this movie is not really memorable at all. There's some character building here and there. They make a reference to David Harbour's character using an old MP3 player to listen to music. So what does Jann do in this Sony Entertainment picture? He gives him this Sony Walkman player, which we never actually see until a little bit later on when he actually unpacks it. Why are you naked? When I first saw this, I was like, interesting choice, but it's the most shill and shameless product placement I've ever seen in a movie. You would think Jann would give him some type of sentimental value item that they would build on throughout the movie. That's usually how these tropes work. But no, he just bought this Sony Walkman when he was in Japan hanging out with his girlfriend. Speaking of the girlfriend, the love interest is actually just useless. I think they just kind of put her in there as filler, but there's no value that any of their parts have together, and they kind of don't show that good of chemistry either. The producers were like, there's too much racing in this movie. Let's show that Jann is not just a racer, but he's also... bitch. The end is pretty wild, but also kind of not. Basically, Jann is going through Nürburgring, and it seems like a normal race. Jann's been on cloud 9, he got his FIA license, he just had an amazing trip in Japan with his love interest, and everyone just adores him. Nothing could go wrong. But wait, at Nürburgring, he goes fucking airborne and crashes his car in the most shocking way possible, with everyone watching, including the first time his parents are able to watch a race of him. Up until this point, I was like, alright, he's gonna mess up and make a comeback, or they're gonna make another photo finish type of race, like pretty much every nerve-wracking portion. But no, he launches through the crowd fences and is rushed to the hospital. This is really the only time I felt that everyone involved did a really good job acting. In the hospital, they let Jann know that it was a freak accident, and he ended up killing someone.
With that headwind, it was like a sail. It was a freak accident, Jann.
I shouldn't have been there.
Someone's dead because racing is dangerous.
Oh, I was driving.
Yeah, and you can't be blamed.
Can you go? Can you go? I'm done.
Jann, listen to me, okay?
Get out!
Okay, to be honest, pretty insane, because this actually happened in real life. But from here, David Harbour's character and Jann take a drive back to Nürburgring. He gets this big ol' speech saying how David quit after a bad crash and didn't want to see Jann do the same, as he should finish his lap.
Finish your lap.
It's kind of super predictable here, which sucks, because what actually happened was Jann IRL didn't have someone there to push him or tell him to keep racing. He went back to the track to just warm up and see if he did want to keep racing competitively. He ended up racing over 100 laps to get himself back in that mindset. I feel like that's a bit more inspiring than just a little pep talk. So now, Jann's ready to race, and the next one is the 24 Hours in Le Mans. While the racing circuit cleared him, other competitors took to Twitter to make an anti-sim racer campaign against Jann and other GT Academy drivers. Their response to this was having other GT Academy drivers help with the 24-hour race, which usually this is like a relay race with 3 or 4 people. At the beginning of this race, Jann has some PTSD because his last crash was very traumatic, obviously, but also Jann watches Schulin's car burst into flames in the first part of the race.
No, nine!
You get attacked by the Ferrari! Shooting up in the air!
Is he okay?
Oh my god, he's dead! Oh, he's okay.
Was it Jann?
Are you even watching the movie? And David Harbour's character actually puts in a special song that Jann listens to kind of calm him down. And, well, this happens.
You mad, bro?
So Jann gets kicked back into the race, the other drivers do extremely well, and they ended up getting into the podium position, so they got into 3rd place. And him and the crew live happily ever after. Nothing that blew my mind. It was a decent driving movie, and a decent biopic of a person who still drives to this day, and is actually a pretty good and inspiring movie for other people who are just gamers, I guess. But it falls down kind of this typical underdog trope, which makes it a little bit predictable, like I've said many times here, and that's why it's kind of like a 6.5 for me. I could also do without the random gamer words that are constantly shrewd throughout this movie. It just made me kind of cringe.
Last time you stretched your legs was to go get another packet of Hot Pockets from the freezer.
Noob.
I'm gonna nerf you, gamer.
You mad, bro?
So the movie is like a 6.5, but to be honest, I found the GT Academy portion to be way more interesting. So from here, I scoured the internet, looking through old forums and Facebook posts until I found that there was a wildcard qualifier in the UK for GT Academy in 2011. the same year that Jann qualified. So I looked through the post, and it said if you could achieve a certain time, you qualified for GT Academy. Or at least going to a national final to determine if you went on. It's actually a massive process with multiple phases, but we don't have time for that, and the competition is literally not a thing anymore. So we make our own rules in 2024, and here they are. I have 1 week to achieve a sub 216 on Suzuka circuit with the GTR 07, as that's the most common car used in GT Academy competitions. Racing lines must be turned off during actual runs, and I'll be using sport medium tires since those are also the most commonly used. All of this while playing Gran Turismo 5, since this is the game Jann originally played to qualify in 2011. And lastly, as a side note, I have played one game with a wheel and pedal, and that game was America Truck Simulator. So, hopefully the deliveries from Sacramento to Las Vegas will actually help me here. So the first day I spent like an hour trying to figure out the proper controls for the wheel. There were slight presets of what I was using, but the shifting and pedals were basically not working at all. After I got those set, I started driving. Holy shit. Yeah, that's basically how day one went. I thought it made way more sense to drive a slower car here to get a feel for the shifting and the sensitivity of the wheel and pedals. This also allowed me to just understand the track. Track knowledge is by far the most important, as this allows me to memorize corners, turns, straights, and not have to guess what's coming up next. Obviously I could use the mini-map at the top, which I do in later runs, but I need to get the basics down. The last time I played Gran Turismo was in 2005, and that was with a PS2 controller. Also, I was a child, so my peanut brain couldn't comprehend anything past,
"Oh, go fast, and if I fail, you just go faster."
which I guess is still a reasonable response to this challenge. But we finished the day rolling in a Fiat on Suzuka and record our first real time 4 minutes 36.618 seconds. I'll take it. We just have to shave off a hearty 2 minutes and 20 seconds. At this point, I was ready for the big leagues. I felt confident in what I knew for the track and basically where and when to brake or push. But going from a Fiat to a GTR is insanely different, considering a Fiat maxed out at 60 miles per hour or 97 kilometers per hour on straights, and the GTR is hitting that on the tightest of turns while maxing upwards of 160 miles per hour or 257 kilometers per hour. So it's a little bit different. After an hour, I could feel myself settling in and generally feeling good. Even though I was launching off on some turns, I brought my time all the way down to 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But in racing, 14 seconds is an extremely long time. The good part is I knew where I messed up, which was pretty much the whole race, so I had a lot of time to gain. But then I noticed something. Why were my times not saving or posting? And then I realized, if you're not properly racing on the track or staying to the confines of what the game sees as a valid run, your time is marked red or invalid. It doesn't count. I remember reading about valid and invalid runs for GT Academy. I didn't fully understand that at the time, but it makes sense. So pretty much the entire day 3 was invalid runs, which means even cutting too much of a corner would make the lap null and void. Even my blistering 4 minutes and 36 second lap with the Fiat didn't count. This was rough. If I couldn't even post a valid lap, how the hell would I post a qualifying time? I was at my lowest. So I delivered some cargo to Sacramento, and I called it a night. There must have been some insane Gran Turismo energy flowing through my body this day because I was going hard. Time after time, things were feeling good. Constant valid laps and even beating the red marked runs by seconds at a time. I mean, I was racing so well and limit testing each straight to turn Seeing how far I could reach before downshifting in it gave me a sense of control with the car. Crazy enough, I hit a 2 minute 17.490 second lap. Holy. Literally just need 1.5 seconds and we're in. We're done. Part of me thought though, maybe the car isn't correct, maybe these tires are too good for this. So a bit of imposter syndrome set in. But then I thought, fuck it. It's a challenge I put for myself and rules that we set for ourselves as well. It's supposed to be fun and just something that anyone back home can do. And with that, we press on. I'm not gonna lie, day 5 was a rest day. I felt good about the recent time I posted and I didn't want to start ramming my head at the wall to try and smash a good time. What I thought would be better is watching the recording of what I did right on the turns and where I needed to improve. What could I do better? A lot of the turns felt good, but I made minor mistakes. Take a look at this. Here's Suzuka Circuit. You have a rolling start going into this straight. This big first turn is perfect for downshifting into a drift if possible. The next is a slalom of turns, constant pumping of brakes, even repetitive down and up shifting to gain control. A pretty easy wide turn that leads into 2 abrupt corners, both allowing for a downshift drift. This makes for time save if you cut the corners correctly. What this leads into is a straight where you downshift into second gear to not launch off the track. This turn is all about control. The next brings you all the way to 5th gear, holding here as long as possible, then downshift to 3rd gear for a drift around this corner while pumping the brakes. A massive straightaway right after, which leads into a 4th gear drifting turn, but this last bit is literally the run killer. You're downshifting from 4th gear to 2nd gear to clear these 2 90-degree angle turns. They're so compact and close together that if you go over a little bit, your run will be completely void. It'll be an invalid run. Fuck off. Which then leads into the finish line. Hopefully you took all that information and all that kind of makes sense. So here we go. So this sucks. The program I used to play Gran Turismo 5 had an update, and with that it reconfigured the controls on my wheel. Everything stayed the same except for my pedals. The brake pedal is completely unmapped, and my gas pedal is now the brake pedal. All of this going on while my car is still accelerating. There's a button being pressed that's making my car go forward. So for the rest of this challenge, I have to play with my car constantly accelerating with my gas pedal being the brake. I'm not gonna lie. This is pretty frustrating, but I think I can get through it. So day 6 was all about adjusting to the new controls we were given, which honestly isn't that bad. I don't have to worry about a separate pedal, but hopefully when I drive to the store IRL, I remember which pedal does what. After adjusting to the controls, I ended up practicing a bunch on the turns that are most important, which I realized after typing them all out for the script is like every turn. This track is terrifying, but I think the biggest ones are these: the connected abrupt turns, the tight turn right after, and the final 2 90-degree angle turns which lead to the finish line. Let's see if all this practice paid off. Holy shit! Oh! Oh! Oh. Fuck you, pedals. Thank you guys for watching. This was a really fun challenge, and one that anyone at home could do. I dare you. I double dog dare you. If you made it this far, consider giving this video a like, writing a comment, and subscribing for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one.